Hi, this is Sherry. Welcome to my journey in clay. Today we're going to be making a bowl from a slab of clay. It's more like a fruit bowl or a bread bowl because it's, I'll show you. This is not the one we're going to make today. This is one I made previously, but it's the same design. So you can see it's got all these extrusions around the side. So that's what we're going to do today. I've already rolled the clay out, so we'll start from that step. Here's our clay rolled out. It's about a 1/4 inch thick. I've rolled it into about a 9 or 10 inch circle to make sure that I have plenty of room. I've decided to put some texture on it. So I have a piece of lace here, which I'm trying to center and smooth out some of these little wrinkles so that they don't get on the clay, make it wrinkly. More smoothing. Just when you think you have it, there's another lump. Okay, this looks good. We're going to roll it gently but firmly. You want to make sure that you get all the sides and that you get it so that the impression is going to be deep enough, because once you take it off, you really can't put it back on. So this looks good. I'm going to go ahead, take it off so that it doesn't stick. I'm using a craft foam piece to roll on here, and it's a little bit sticky. So I just want it to not stick. I don't want the clay to stick when I go to pick it up. Here's a pan lid that I have, which is about the right size. I'm going to use this to make my circle. I'm not going to use the pan to actually cut it out, but I'm going to use this pan to mark it where I want to cut it. So I'm just going to put the pan down and just, push it down a little bit here just to make a mark that I can follow with my cutting tool. This looks good. So get my cutting tool and I will start cutting around it. And when you, we got a couple little things on couple little bits of dried up clay on my cutting tool. I try to make sure I check it each time, because even when I think it's clean, sometimes there's some little pieces left on it. So I'm going to, as I said, cut this, making sure that I don't slant the knife too much, trying to keep it straight up and down. There we go. This is good. All right, so now I have my textured circle cut out, ready to go. I'm going to get a styrofoam ball here. It's a half circle of styrofoam. I've covered it in pantyhose. Now, if you don't have this, you can use a bowl, another bowl, and also I just happen to have these pantyhose. You also could use cornstarch to keep it from sticking, or you could use even some thin material, like some thin cotton material, to keep it. So I'm centering the clay over top of this styrofoam ball, and I'm just going to gently turn and press. In this case, this bowl is somewhat shallow, so it's not too difficult. If you use a larger piece for a deeper bowl, it can be a little trickier. But this, I just keep on going around gently, slowly, compressing, a little bit at a time. So I think this is good. I'm going to check it. You can see I have some lines around my styrofoam that I've made. This is so I can check and make sure that the bowl is fairly level. Sometimes when you're pressing down the clay, it goes off to one side a little bit. So I made these lines to just sort of help me keep it straight and level. Then I put it in plastic, left it overnight, and it's the next day here. I'm taking the plastic wrap off, and seeing if it's firm, which it is. It holds its shape. It's not too hard, but it's hard enough that it's going to hold its shape. So that's going to be good for our use here. I'm going to set that aside. And I've decided that I would like to have a foot ring for this particular bowl. I don't always do that, but I think it looks nicer. It elevates it just a little bit, and I don't know. Either way really is fine. But in this case, I've decided to do the foot ring. So I just take a little piece of clay and roll it out to a pretty good size here. And then I'm going to get my ruler. I'm going to use my, smooth it here with the rib to make sure there's no lines on it. I'm using a wooden ruler here because the wood does not stick to the clay. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut both sides of this from the ruler so that I know that I'm making it equal. I'm not going to leave it this wide. I could, and it would look fine if that's the look that you're going for with a high foot like that, but I don't really want that. I want this to be a little more subtle. So I'm going to cut this in half lengthwise so that it is not as wide. So I'm measuring it, and I think this is going to be good. Okay, yep, that looks good. Put this other piece aside, don't really need that. Now I'm going to sort of double check to see if I've made it long enough. Take a look at my bowl, and let's see. Yeah, I'm going to make like a bit of a circle here. I have some circle shapes that I'm going to use if I need to try to maintain the circular shape of the footer. First, we'll see which one I need to use because I have several sizes here. Some too big, some too little. It's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. But this one looks good. I'm going to go ahead and join these two pieces to make my circle. And I was going to use a cup, but the cup didn't work. It was too big. So back to the metal. But the metal sticks. That's why it's not perfect. But this will do. And now I'm going to scratch and use some slip to attach it to the bowl. So I'm scratching here, and then I'm going to scratch the bowl too where I'm going to put it. So I'm taking this, which is about the size of the inside of the footer, and I'm going to scratch just gently, not too much. Before I do that, I want to just very gently flatten the bottom just a little, not a lot, but just enough so that it's a little bit flatter. I think that helps when I'm putting the footer on so that all the sides, if that makes sense, so that all the sides fit, so that it just seems to me to be a better fit if I do that first. So now I'm going to make my scratch marks around the bowl, and then we'll get some slip, put that on the footer, and when I put this on the bowl, I'll try my best to center it, put a little slip on the bowl also. The bowl is still soft enough so that this should adhere well, and the footer is soft since I just rolled it. So we just place that and just gently press down for a good fit. I'm going to gently press down, and then I'm going to clean up the outside edges with a, clean it up really, I sped this up because it it takes a while, you know, to get everything so that it's seamless and you don't see a discrepancy there, like between the footer and the bowl. Next thing I'm going to do is, if you noticed, I didn't clean that one seam up too well where I joined it. And the reason why is because I knew that I was going to come out and make a little opening there. The reason for for an opening, I'm going to put one on either side, is that if you put it in the dishwasher, then if you don't have these holes on either side, the water collects in there. Not really a big deal, but it is nicer to have the holes in it and for the water to drain out. In this case, the bowl is going to be fairly delicate. Can go in the dishwasher, but I think it probably won't go in the dishwasher that often, or somebody will hand wash it, because if it's a fruit bowl or a bread bowl, it's probably not going to, you know, be holding anything liquid or anything. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to go ahead and cover with plastic. I'm going to cover the bowl with plastic and try to keep the footer not covered so that it can dry out a little bit. I don't want to set it down on the footer yet because it's still a little bit soft. So here comes our fun part, and that is making all these extruded loops to go on the edge. So I have my clay. I'm using a Kemper Clay Gun, and this discs, I call it a 3-parter, and I use the largest one. You can see on the diagram there. So we take our clay, roll it, make a little roll of clay, a coil, and try to push it out with one push if you can, because it sometimes gets like a little hitch in it if you have to do more than one push. And then I'm just going to shape it. I'm going to shape it with like a leaf shape or a teardrop shape. This clay is somewhat sticky, so I need to wipe my hands off here. Okay, now I'm going to make a couple of these. They'll be plenty dry enough to put on the bowl after we've made enough of them. So I'm going to make another one. Again, make a coil of clay, put it in the extruder, and try to make it one push. If you don't have an extruder, I guess the other thing that you could do is, well, for this particular style, you really have to have an extruder. So I'm pushing this out. I'm going to make another one. If you don't have an extruder, you could possibly cut strips of clay, or if you could make just a plain coil and make it thin enough and even enough, which frankly I can't really do, but that's an option. So I've made another one. I'm going to smooth it out a little bit. They don't have to be exactly the same size. We'll do a little bit of manipulation after we have them all ready. So these look like they're pretty good. Again, it's a 3-parter. When you do them, because it's 3 parts, I try to make there's 2 parts kind of on the bottom and 1 part on the top. So when I set them down, I try to make it with the flatter part on the bottom. Also, when I do the coil here and put it through the extruder, it's easier for me if I stand up because the torque is better. And then also notice that it comes out in a little bit of a bend, and so I try to keep that same bend, not try to make it go in the other direction. Seems intuitive, but you know, it doesn't always work that way. So now I have 3 of these. I'm going to take a look and see, am I going to be able to do this consistently? And yeah, I think I am. So I'm going to go ahead and make the rest anywhere, I believe, like 12 to 15 is how many I'm going to make. it's generally better to make one or two more than one or two less. And that way, if one of them you decide you don't want to use, or it doesn't work correctly for whatever reason, then you have an extra. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, some of these have little excess clay. I'm going to try and make each of them the same height. And I'm going to just squeeze that bottom together. I'm going to cut off any unnecessary clay. Oops. Well, okay, I'm going to push that right back together again. So I'm going to do that for each of these. Try to get them as uniform as I can. They're won't be exact, but it'll be pretty close. So we'll get all those done. And once we get them done, I get my bowl out and smooth the edge just a little. It doesn't need too much here, but I just did a little bit. Then we're going to scratch, gently pick up one of the loops, scratch it, just scratch where on the bowl where you want to put the first one. Get your slip, put your slip on both sides, and then gently just push it down onto the bowl. When I push it down, I'm not pushing it from the top. I'm just holding the bottom there. Just holding the bottom, and I'm just sort of gently pushing it down into the rim of the bowl. I'm going to put my next one on. It's hard to say exactly how hard you should, or how far apart you should put them, but you just kind of gauge it. I want to put it far enough apart, or close enough together, I guess, that the sides will touch each other. So I've scratched, I've put my slip on, I'm getting my second piece. Again, just gently push down on the sides, and then you noticed I put a little bit of slip on the side. I want the sides of the two loops to touch each other. They don't have to be pressed together. I don't want to smush them. I don't want to distort them. I just don't want them to separate. I'm going to try a cup for a support here. I thought they might hold their shape, but they're not. I mean, they're holding their shape, but they're going backwards a little bit. And while I do want a gentle line, I want the loops to follow the lines of the bowl. I don't want the bowl to be round and then the loops straight up. So I want them slightly outward, but not too much. So I'm going to use this cup and see if that's going to be enough. A little more smushing down. I'm going to take this next piece, do the same thing. Scratch, slip, both sides. And another thing to remember is, remember I said that there's like a flat part and a third, and a part that's raised. You want to have each of the pieces in the same direction so that these, what I'm calling the flat side here, are all facing inside, because you want it to be consistent. I don't know how much difference it would make, but it does make a little bit of difference. So this one is working, but it is, I'm not sure about these supports here. So let's try one more and see what happens. Well, before I am able to put it on, I can already see that it's leaning out a little bit. So I think I'm going to have to come up with another solution for the supports. I get another cup, and that cup is too big for the turntable. And also, I'm not going to be able to put cups all the way around because there's not enough room. So I'm going to use my cup and keep that secure for a minute. Yep, a little more cleanup. I see a jagged edge here. So it doesn't have to be super smooth. It can be smooth around the rim. It doesn't have to be, but I found a piece of clay that was sticking out from the bowl. So it really does need to be cut off a little bit here. Because once I get all these loops on, it's going to be difficult, if not impossible, to be fixing that. I'm going to try one more loop here. I've moved, as you can see, I moved the cup over to the most recent ones. I'm not sure how long they're going to take to set up, but I'm going to go ahead and put one more on. Again, on the side goes the slip, and then also on the loop and the bowl so that I can make a secure connection. Now, this is definitely not going to stay. I can see it's already bowing out too much. So I think it's about time for another solution, which is going to be taking some of my leftover clay and my clay scraps, or even just my new clay, whatever I have. I'm going to make some clay supports because I'm going to need more. I'm going to need more as I go, and also I don't have enough room to put cups all the way around, even if I have more cups. So I'm going to use a clay support here. I just make a giant coil and flatten the bottom so that it sticks to the, not sticks, but so that it stays secure. It doesn't have to, it's not going to be attached. It's just supporting. So I just want it enough so that it holds that loop in place. So it looks like this is going to work. So what I need to do now is make a couple more, or make, for now, make one more support and have that replace the cup. In addition to that, I'm going to need, well, I don't need, but I will move the bowl over to the center a little bit more. And then I'll put my other support here again. So that's going to work. I'm just going to need more clay supports as I go along. You can see the line here where the loops are not straight up, but they are just at a slight angle. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of the bowl using the supports. When you get to the end where you have just a little bit left, you just sort of gauge it and say, decide, okay, do I need to like squeeze these together just very slightly, or do I need to only use two, or what? But every time I've made it so far, it's I've only made 3 of these bowls, but each time it's worked out well, the spacing. Okay, all of my loops are on. I have my supports. So what I want to do now is make some little clay balls that will help support the loops and also give a little bit of interest. It will make that line on the outside where they're joined look a little nicer. I put the ruler there to catch the balls in case they start rolling off. So I'm going to make a couple of these, and I'll try to make them the same size. It's not critical, close to the same size. It gets, once you start, actually, it gets pretty darn easy. So here I have all my supports, and I have some of the little clay balls rolled out. I also got a higher turntable so that, for 2 reasons. 1, so I can see what I'm doing better, and 2, so that I can show you exactly how this is working here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to put the slip right where the loop is joined to the bowl. I'm going to take one ball on the side, one in the middle, and one on the other side. And then gently push the two on the side and gently push the one in the middle. I also, if you notice, sort of put my hand on the other side of the bowl there just in case it pushes in. So I'm going to do that for each join where the loop is on the bowl. You can also add more if you like. On one of the other bowls, I put those little balls all around the entire diameter. But in this case, I'm just going to do 3 on under each loop. The last thing I want to do here is just a little bit of cleanup. I've got a tool here. You can use your fingers or another tool and just sort of go around and, you know, smooth things out a little bit. So there we are. I'm trying to think, I want to say how much time this took, and honestly, I don't know. But it's not terrible. You have a little bit of wait time. I guess probably a couple hours is how long that the whole thing takes to do. I sped some of this up to make it easier to watch. And then I will leave the supports on while it dries. And this dries pretty evenly. I'll probably put a plastic bag over it though. And here we go is the one I've made previously. I will post this one after I fire it. Thanks for watching.